Hey, everybody. Welcome to House Calls, the podcast. Today, we are interviewing TJ Malone, a former Penn State All-American lacrosse player and the reigning Rookie of the Year for the PLL. We're doing this on a Saturday morning before Penn State's game. We're shooting the intro, though, a few days later. So Penn State went on to beat Colgate in the first round of the NCAA tournament, 13-11. They got a game coming up this weekend where they're playing Notre Dame here in Annapolis at noon, I believe. I think everybody's excited for that one. But although TJ's graduated and he's not part of the Penn State team anymore, he still had a huge influence on a lot of the players that are still there. And we're going to actually play a clip from episode, what episode was it?
7, maybe?
Episode 7 with Penn State goalie Jack Fracyon, just to say what a great leader TJ was. TJ overcame some serious injuries during his college career and ended up having great success. And he's going to fill us in on what he's doing now. So take a listen. I think you'll enjoy it. What else do you want to say, Matt?
Thanks for
what about likes, shares, emails, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. No, I'm just your pump up man to make you look good. And gosh, damn, you are looking good today. Our back office are telling us that people that like and comment and share are really good for the podcast. Ty and I really didn't know that. We're figuring that out as we go. We usually just have these conversations and just hit record. But supposedly, if you all could like and share and subscribe to wherever you're listening to this, the people in the back would be very happy. And also,
even more important, I'll cut you off again.
Yes,
you
will.
If you know somebody who the episode specifically would help, send it directly to them.
Absolutely. And if you're somebody you think would be a good guest, send them to us and we'll take it from there.
Be awesome.
So
do we have too many sponsors yet, or we're still taking
sponsors? We got room. We can juggle. Again, disappointed that you weren't named Pope. I know you're in the running, but and I know you're upset with Notre Dame versus Penn State this weekend. Your allegiances are divided. So good luck to you.
I will be cheering for Penn State. And then that reminds me also, I have to warn you, in this episode, TJ corrected me. I got confused on what was his final year, and I was thinking it was the year that they lost to Notre Dame in the playoffs. He actually came back. And I was actually at his last game against Georgetown, watching the game. And I was like, how did I forget that? But he corrected me quickly. So I don't think we have anything where we stretch the truth during this episode.
Well, finally. And I'm glad it all comes back to you. All right. Well, hey,
here's Jack.
TJ Malone, who was our best player, for my whole time here. This is his first year not here. Double hip surgery. I believe he had double labrum surgery. And he had surgery on his groin. He was never supposed to come back. He came back in and he tore it up, just completely dominated the game. Every single day would go to bed and wake up at the same exact time. He would go into the training room and do stretches with our trainer. The football team's physical therapist would come in, work him out. And he was just always staying nimble.
Did that resonate with the rest of the team?
Definitely. It's a lead by example thing. He was a captain too. He was getting freshmen in to come in the morning with him, to work out with him. It's actually funny, the lack of injuries we saw in that offseason where he came back compared to the year afterwards. It's crazy just seeing how many people he was able to bring along with him.
Welcome to House Calls, the podcast. Today we are interviewing TJ Malone, who is the reigning Premier Lacrosse League Rookie of the Year and was an All-American at Penn State. Today's game day for Penn State, so we'll touch on that. They play Colgate, although the podcast will come out after that. We do want to do a little shout out to our main sponsor, who is the Persian Panther LLC. I'm wearing his shirt. I'll be drinking water out of his cup, and he likes to say, especially when you are in a sport and you're maybe behind a couple, you're losing. He always says, how can we be losing to these guys? We're so much better looking. So we are the best looking podcast that's out there today. So let's get started. Let's welcome TJ.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me. Yes, Persian Panther. He's one of the best looking guys on this planet. So we have to give it up to him. We all have to get onto his level.
Yeah, someday. I mean, true story. I know where he gets his hair done. He used to go to the same barber long time ago.
So, TJ, where are you right now?
So right now I'm in New York City. I'm living in Manhattan, and I'm working in investment banking at TD Cowen, which is an investment bank in Midtown. And so right now I'm just in my apartment in the Flatiron District in New York. I actually just got done playing some lacrosse with some of the PLL guys this morning. We go to a local field in Manhattan, and we just have a great time, get a lot of reps in, getting prepared for the season. So that brings me to right now, we're 11 a.m. on a Saturday on college lacrosse game day. So there's not too much better than this right now.
That's great. When does the PLL season kick off?
We start at the end of the month. We have training camp starting around Memorial Day weekend, and then we go to the following weekend. And then our first game is that at the end of that week. And then from there, we just get into the rest of the season, having games all over the country. I don't know, for people that don't know, lacrosse is a tour-based league. So every weekend we go to a new location and we travel with all the PLL guys. So there's no home and away games really. It's, hey, we're going to Charlotte this weekend. Hey, we're going to Salt Lake City this weekend. We're going to San Diego. And then it's all usually 7 teams because one team usually has a bye, but all 7 or 8 teams will go and travel, and we'll all play 1 or 2 games that weekend and then fly back to wherever we're staying.
That's awesome. I love that model. I think that is just Paul and all of those guys. I mean, just genius.
And I really I do want to touch on that later because it's very similar to how things were like barnstorming baseball teams and
right.
things like that back in the day. And I see a lot of similarities between the PLL and some of the early sports leagues and such.
We're
I'm such a sports
We're not
historian.
We're not that
there
old
yet. So what we need to know, let's start at the very beginning. TJ, how did you fall in love with sports? And then obviously that led you to lacrosse, that you have such a passion that even your apartment is decorated with that lacrosse picture behind you.
Yeah, so this is actually a funny story behind this. This is my first real big purchase. I don't consider myself an art guy at all, but this is kind of my first big art purchase. I met this guy, Native American, that I met in New York City. So I was doing my internship in investment banking, and below my building there was a smoothie shop, and I walk in, and there's this guy wearing a Thompson lacrosse shirt with a long ponytail, similar how the Thompsons have. And so I naturally just start talking to him and say, hey, obviously you know about lacrosse. Do you happen to be are you related to the Thompsons at all? He goes, no, but I'm native and I play lacrosse all the time. And so I got in touch with him. We met up and we played a bunch of wall ball together in the city. Turns out he's a great artist and he makes a bunch of lacrosse art. You can follow him on Instagram his name is Clever, and he makes a bunch of great lacrosse art, and this is one of his big portraits. And so at the end of my internship,
cool.
I bought the painting as part of my celebratory return offer at the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Something to kind of remember the summer and remember my relationship with Clever. And I've always been very
How do you spell Clever?
Klever. And I've always been very interested in the native aspect and this kind of spiritual roots of lacrosse, and that kind of always meant a lot to me, meeting him and staying connected with him throughout the years.
That's awesome. I think that's the cool thing about art, no matter what it is, as long as it talks to you, right? It has means something special to you. That's what it's all about. It doesn't really matter what other people think about it, but it means something to you. And I think that's really special.
Yeah. I also like it when people recognize that's part of lacrosse, and it's kind of like invented by Native Americans, but the spirituality part of it is kind of playing for the love of the game and not so much to make this club team or to get this cool jersey or, there is that thing of just love it. And that's where you see these old guys who maybe were never in the PLL or never had the success you had at Penn State, but they're still out there late at night on a Thursday night when they still got to get up to go to work the next day, still playing. It's pretty cool. Yeah. And I still see some of them in my office and they're not retiring. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, it is amazing. They call it the medicine game. I really do think, I read this piece on Lyle Thompson that he put out. It was lacrosse is the medicine game. The harder you play, the more medicine you get. And I always kind of like that way of thinking about it. It's the harder you can play and train, the better it is for you. And I've always found that to be true. Like when I get done a practice and it is just a brutal, grueling practice, you just feel so great after, and it's just an awesome feeling. So when you can attach like a deeper meaning to something like a sport, it really helps you get through the tough times. And as we can talk about some of the injury stuff later, but that was always a big motivating factor for me.
So how did you start lacrosse when you were young, and how did that fit in with the other sports you were doing and the other hobbies you were doing?
Yeah, so I actually started lacrosse like kindergarten time frame, and I actually ended up quitting because like the helmet was too big, too uncomfortable, and playing so many other sports, it wasn't necessarily my favorite one. And picked it up again in second or third grade, and really never stopped playing after that. But
And
still,
this is all outside of Philly, right?
yeah,
This is
so
all
I grew up outside
of
of Philly, like Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
In a town called Unionville, and so played all types of sports. My family and I, we belong to a country club too, so a lot of exposure into some of those sports like racket sports, swimming and diving, golf. So just loved anything that had to do with playing a sport. I remember my parents said my first word was ball. Like they're when I talk to family members, like their only memory of me is just literally running around with a ball in my hand of any sport and just doing athletic things. So that was kind of who I was as a kid, very active in all different types of sports, but played everything. I wrestled, I played basketball, football, but then when I got to high school, I was super late bloomer, and so I think playing football was would have been pretty dangerous. When I was freshman, to put it into reference. When I got my license at 16 and a half, my license said 5'4". So that's how short I was at that time. And so you can imagine when I got into high school as a freshman, I was probably like 5'2". Very, very small, tiny. Playing football would have been really probably dangerous. So I started to just focus on basketball and lacrosse. And those were my two passions. And I didn't really start to focus on lacrosse until high school, I would say. And what I mean by that is I didn't really start to fall in love with the game until high school. And I think the reason being for that was an interesting one. But so when I grew up in Unionville, got recruited to play lacrosse at the Harvard School in Philadelphia. And so it was about a 45-minute commute every morning. And we would carpool with some friends. But if we left the house at 7, we would be in the car for an hour and a half, maybe. But if we left at 6:15 or 6:30, we'd only have to be in the car for 45 minutes just due to traffic. So we'd be getting to school very early. Said we'd get to school around 7 or 7:15, and school didn't start till 8:30. So we had all this time in the morning, and our offensive lacrosse coach would be out there every morning on the field or on the wall with his kids who were 4 or 5 years old. They'd just be playing every sport known to man, similar to how I grew up, just playing with their siblings, playing anything. So they would be playing football, basketball, and it just kind of felt like home. And he would always challenge us to come out and play wall ball in the morning. And every morning he would have a different drill for us to do for those 30, 40 minutes that we'd be out there. And so today we'd focus on catching with throwing one fake and throwing a fake and throwing, and or maybe it's two fakes today, or maybe it's strictly underhand, or maybe it's strictly behind the back. So different challenge every single day. And the thing that was pretty amazing with him was he was there every day at 7:15, and he would open up the locker room for us. And so we kind of got there and we were like, all right, well, we're here 45 minutes, or we're here over an hour and a half before school starts. Let's do something productive. And so that's kind of how it started. And I honestly, to be completely honest, I did it to start more to impress him as someone who's coming in, want to impress the coach. And then I really started to just fall in love with it. The process of getting up, first thing I'm doing, obviously I'm driving to school, but first thing I'm doing is getting on the wall. And it started to become a meditative act for me, a routine, somewhere I could go and forget about everything else in the world and just kind of focus on playing. And I realized that over time, my skills just started to really, really compound. If we're looking in the spiritual aspect with Native Americans, we can talk about started to become one with the stick. It just everything just started to flow better. In other words, I just got a lot better at it. And so it made it a lot more
Nice.
enjoyable. And I always liked
Don't you think it was probably a combination, right? You were getting better because you're doing more reps, you're doing it, and then you're like, oh, I like this. And so it kind of combined at the right time, the flow and everything else.
I've always loved the phrase, if you want to get good at something, find a way to enjoy it. And if you want to enjoy something, find a way to get good at it. So it was just kind of like exactly what you said. It's like the combined effects of getting good and also enjoying it. It just helps. And
Good for you.
And so it just led to kind of me slowly getting better over time. And so that's when I started to fall in love with the game of lacrosse. And from there, it was never easy. Like I didn't even play varsity until my junior year. So you can imagine I spent 2 years on the wall every morning, basically playing and getting better to only sit on the bench and to barely get in. A lot of it was due to my size, but I eventually knew that if I just kept going, I would eventually surpass people. And especially when I started to grow, I would definitely surpass people. It was all a big learning lesson in trusting the process. And so I kind of fell in love with the process, and the rest kind of happened from there.
Did you mentioned that you first started doing it because you kind of wanted to impress your coach, which I think is one of the really cool things about coaches and teachers at the high school level that sometimes they don't know. But like I had coaches who were sometimes my teachers, and I actually did better in their class because I wanted to impress them, because they were my lacrosse coach or they were my wrestling coach or football coach. I actually studied harder in their classes because I wanted them to think I was smart also. And when becoming a doctor, I think back to like, maybe that was my catalyst, was I was just trying to show off for the lacrosse coach to get a good grade in math,
Yeah.
Whatever works.
Yeah. So were you doing this with your brother also?
So no, I was 3 grades older than my brother. So,
Okay.
sorry.
And wait, your brother's Carl?
My brother's Teddy.
Sorry, not Carl Malone. They played bad. Never mind. Stupid.
That's a dated
Yeah.
reference.
I know.
Not. That was my nickname. That was my nickname at some point.
Nice.
But yeah, no, my brother was, I guess 4 grades below me because we never overlapped in high school.
One more. Wait,
Okay.
was it Sam?
He doesn't know Sam Malone either. Come on, man.
From Mayday. So anyhow, you have a brother, and you're a couple of years. You guys ever play together in high school?
So we never overlapped. The only time we've played together has been in like summer leagues.
Right.
And always, although I wouldn't be the player I am without my brother, because I'd get home from school, practice, whatever. It didn't matter what time it was. My brother would be out in the backyard playing, and like in the spring, at least in the lacrosse season when it was still light out and stuff. Because we'd get home pretty late because we would also try to leave after rush hour. So we had long days. We had like 13, 14-hour days from like leaving the house at 6:30, getting back at like 8:30. So we, at the end of that day, I would be exhausted, and I see my brother out in the backyard playing. And I probably had played wall ball in the morning and had lacrosse practice in the afternoon, and still like just found a way just to get out there and play with him. For me, it was just always just energizing. Like anytime I got off the lacrosse field, I felt better than when I got on. So I wouldn't be the player I am without him, because he always motivated me to get better. And now he's got a game tomorrow, an NCAA playoff game at Harvard. Harvard's playing Syracuse in the Dome on Sunday. So I'm super excited to watch him play in that.
That is awesome.
That is very cool.
So
and he plays for Harvard?
Yes.
Can you comment on all the other sports, how they helped you in lacrosse, and ultimately how you chose lacrosse over, say, basketball?
Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever read the book called Range by David Epstein, but it talks about you read it.
Yeah.
Awesome book, and it kind of changed the way that I looked at like sports and stuff. But it talks just about how specialization is really bad, and can lead to tons of burnout and overuse injuries and just overall worse performance. And so I luckily had an upbringing where we played everything, and I really do credit my lacrosse ability to playing all these other sports. I think specifically basketball. I think that's the number one sport that transfers over the most. And like I said, in high school, I played basketball 4 years, and I actually was committed to Amherst College before I was committed to Penn State for lacrosse, but I was going to planning on walking on the basketball team there and playing basketball as well. So that's how much I took basketball seriously and really loved it. And so I think, to keep a long story short, I wouldn't be the player I am without all those other sports and drawing from all those other skills that I learned from individual sports to team sports. I think it all helps you get better.
We're in college and now the PLL. Do you still play basketball for conditioning purposes and agility purposes, or do you worry about like a sprained ankle?
No, I would play more, but right now I'm doing investment banking. So there's not a whole lot of time. So I have to be very strategic with my training. And so ideally I would be playing basketball at least twice a week in the off season for conditioning purposes, but also I look at it a whole lot more than conditioning. I look at it as like an opportunity to get better at lacrosse because it's very similar movements. It's driving and dumping. It's driving, getting to the goal. It's body control. It's teamwork. It's defense. It's offense. It's got everything. So I don't think there's a better sport that you can play to get you prepared for lacrosse.
TJ, you have a connection to sports and you have a connection to lacrosse that's almost metaphysical. It's not just the athletic piece. It's like the deep understanding, the love of the flow and everything that you have, and you can express it way better than I can right now. But where did that come from? Like, did your parents like kind of help you along that path to get to this deeper love of a sport or love of an activity, or was it just your natural curiosity that you were reading these great books and remembering these quotes and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I think it's just always been kind of a part of me. I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot. But yeah, no, I really think that that's just kind of who I am. And I kind of like to go deep into things I'm interested in. I'm pretty, if you've ever talked to people that know me pretty well, very one track minded. And like when I'm onto something, I'm like going all in. And so when I was going through my surgeries, like I was researching everything on how can like I get an edge, whether that's like recovery. I got very into sleep and like my sleep routine and different types of workouts to help me get better and all that. So I think lacrosse is just something I've been focused on for a long time. So I've really kind of developed a deep connection with it. But I think it's also like the deep desire to just be excellent in what I do. It's not for anybody to impress anyone. It's just for myself to try to be the best I can be. So I think over time I've like read and studied up a lot on things on my own. I always say education is like the stuff outside of school. So like I never really use my school education that much. It's more using the stuff that I'm just really deeply interested in and like reading up on it.
Yeah. So you go to Penn State, you have a lot of success early, and then your hips start hurting. So to tell us about that, but was that your first injury you ever had?
So no, the first injury I would ever have, besides growing up and just having broken hands, broken feet, all that type of stuff, broken fingers. My first big injury came during my freshman year. We were playing in the Final Four versus Yale, and I went knee to knee with a Yale defender and sprained my MCL, tore my meniscus, and actually fractured my tibia plateau. So kind of a big injury, and played the rest of the game on it. Could barely like run and stuff, but I had no idea what was wrong. But after the game, saw the doctor and he was like, no ACL tear, you're good, which was pretty amazing. And so I spent most of the summer rehabbing, and then actually meniscus still kept bothering me. Knowing what I know now, I probably would not have gotten the surgery, but I ended up getting meniscus surgery and it helped a lot. And so that was my first like big surgery, and it wasn't huge surgery, but surgery all in itself is a big kind of undergoing. And then that led me to my freshman year. Like I recovered from that really, really well. My sophomore year was playing some of the best lacrosse I ever played. I think I'm playing the best I've ever played in my life, actually. And then we just get canceled for COVID and go home from COVID. And I was like, I see this as an opportunity to get really, really good. And so I had nothing else going on, and I just started training. I was playing basketball all the time. Like I was in the best shape of my life, super strong, and started to develop some really bad patellar tendonitis in my right knee, with my surgery knee. And I don't know if that had anything to do with the surgery or not, but started to get like really bad knee pain that put me out. And like, I think it was really bad. I think there was probably something more messed up than just tendonitis, but I think over time that summer I started compensating for my hips. And this is all kind of from my perspective. And I'm talking to a doctor here, and he might call BS, but this is from how I think about it.
No,
But
how you think about it is all that matters.
That's right.
And so I started compensating for my hips and started to get some really bad hip pain. And I think I started to develop like a sports hernia in my groin area. And that started to really upset my hips. And so eventually I missed that whole next year, my junior year my junior year, I play on it, like bad hips, bad knees, kind of in shambles. I play all year on it. And then we get to the summer and I'm like, can barely do anything. Can we look at this? And my physical therapist was like, or athletic trainer was like, hey, likely just overuse injuries, give the summer some time to rest, come back in the fall, you should all be good. Get back in the fall. I rested up all summer, felt pretty good because I wasn't running on it as much. Came back in the fall, very similar hip pain, very similar sports hernia pain. And so all fall just out, like not really sure what's going on, really frustrated, going to doctors. They're like, hey, like, you look fine. Your hips look fine to me. And we did ultrasounds.
And was the pain in your groin, and was it just when you were playing lacrosse, or was it sleeping and walking and all that kind of stuff?
It was groin and like very low abdomen.
Okay.
So very low abdomen. So like it hurt all the time. When I would take a deep breath and I'd have pain.
Wow. Okay.
I would sneeze and I would have pain. It was like really, really bad sports hernia pain. And knowing what I know now, I knew it was like a sports hernia. But they did ultrasounds and couldn't find anything. And so I was like, they're like, okay, you're fine. You must be kind of faking it. And we get to the spring season and I'm in such bad pain that I can't even get out of bed. Like if I ever get up from bed, it's like a huge pain in like that area. And so I didn't play that season and finally like started to ask if I can get some outside help. And my athletic trainer, he's awesome. He put me in touch with a hip specialist out in Chicago, Dr. Dome, and went into him and he kind of did some x-rays and MRIs and saw that my labrums were both horribly torn. And he's like, all right, let's fix these labrums. And you do have sports hernia pain, but that's likely due to your labrums just compensating and rubbing and everything not, going smoothly.
So pause for a second. So
Yeah.
Matt, the labrum, the hip is a ball and socket joint. The socket has cartilage around it called the labrum, very similar to the shoulder labrum. And so TJ's femur or ball was rubbing on his socket in a way that tore his labrum.
Yeah.
Back to TJ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cool. And so that's exactly what he said. And so I went into surgery and got my first surgery on my left hip. And then 3 weeks later, had my surgery on my right hip. And the reason they were so close together was because I was coming up on my investment banking internship starting in June. And so I was like, I need to be walking for this internship. Like, we got to get it in before that. So usually you take, you know better, but they said at least 4 weeks. And we're like, hey, can you do 3 weeks? Because I have this internship coming up. And they agreed to that. And so got those surgeries, flew to Chicago for both of them on 2 separate occasions. And both surgeries went great. He's like, you really needed this surgery and should be good for the road to recovery. And so that summer, I was doing investment banking and also doing physical therapy in the morning. So I would be getting up early, like around 6, going to physical therapy, working till around midnight, and then getting up and doing it again. I would do PT 3 days a week, and then I'd be in the office like 6 or 7 days a week. So it was one of the hardest summers I'd ever had in my life. It was probably up to that point, the hardest summer I've ever had in my life. But
paid off.
when your back's against the wall like that and you do whatever it takes.
Right.
So it was never a question of, all right, am I going to do this or not? It was a question of kind of, defending my dignity, and my pride. Was when people thought I was kind of faking this injury. For me, it was like, all right, I'm going to come back stronger than I've ever come back.
Yeah.
How was the rehab process? Like, was it hard? Was it you kind of had to hold back and just do things like biking before you were cleared to do more stuff? Like, what did that look like?
So it was really hard. I would bike for 2 hours a day on no resistance. So I bought an Amazon. I actually still have it in my room. I don't know if you can see, but that bike right there,
Oh, cool.
Yep.
I bought that bike for $120 or something on Amazon, and I've had it ever since. And I've spent like, I don't know, probably hundreds of hours on that thing now. But they said you can't do anything except bike. No resistance, nothing. Just get the hips moving, get blood flow to the hips. So I'd be on that thing all day, watching movies, anything, reading, be on that bike, just putting
Were
in
you
the
watching
hours.
Rocky by any chance?
No, I was not.
No,
I was
come
never a
on,
big
man.
Rocky fan.
Okay.
Even though I
Okay,
should
we
be.
got to go.
Dagger.
We got to go. Ty's out. Ty has to go now.
So TJ, you might be aware of this, but so this is for Matt and for anybody who's listening. What is somewhat cool about TJ's recovery and the fact that he got to the right surgeon, the surgeon fixed him, is hip arthroscopy is newer technology. So when I was in training 25 years ago, we never did a hip arthroscopy. Like I never saw a hip arthroscopy. It was only being done at certain centers. And now it's pretty common. And, but it's not like there's 30 people where we live in Maryland that are great at hip arthroscopy. There's just a handful. So you got to get to that right doctor who does them. And it's kind of cool, the evolution of orthopedics and the evolution of sports medicine. So it's like back in the day, and I'm going to throw out some old names, but when Gale Sayers shredded his knee and tore his ACL, he was done. And now if recently like an Adrian Peterson tears his ACL and within a year, he's gained 2,000 yards. Or this is going to give Matt the eye roll. Burt Jones tears the labrum in his shoulder. There's no MRI. There's no surgery for it. TJ, if you don't know, Burt Jones is a quarterback who Bill Belichick said was the best quarterback he ever saw. And his career, he had a rag arm for the rest of his career. He was done. Drew Brees has the same injury. He's fixed. So TJ, if you had your injury 20 years ago, you might have limped through your last couple of years of lacrosse, or you might have been done. So it's really cool that the medicine evolved so that you could keep playing and have this amazing success.
Well, that is definitely, that's awesome to see. But what I'm take away from all of that is TJ is an advocate for himself, right? You knew there was something that wasn't right. And you said, people might question your dignity or something like that, but you knew deep down that there's something was right. And you kept going to get the answers, to get you fixed and get you right it needed to be. So I think that's another cool aspect of your story.
And I love that the trainer made sure he got to the best person.
Right. Absolutely. Team effort.
Steve Murray, I'm so tight with him to this day because we spent a lot of time together, but he really helped me get outside help when I think that I was not receiving the best at the time. Not knock on any of the doctors.
It wasn't working for you. Yeah.
They to be fair, they didn't see anything wrong. And but once we started to get the right MRIs and all that, it kind of became obvious.
And I was just trying to reinforce the point that there's an orthopedic surgeon in every corner. They don't all do hip arthroscopy. It's a smaller specialty. It's a subspecialty within a subspecialty where you got to go to the person who's really good at it.
Yep. Yeah. And so just to finish up the story, so I ended up rehabbing that whole summer and fall, and I still had that sports hernia pain. And so this was like kind of heartbreaking for me because I just went through two major hip surgeries, and now I'm still having this very similar pain. And again, Steve got me in touch with this awesome doctor from UPenn who does, and he was like, hey, you have a torn adductor. It was from my knowledge, you have 5 adductors, and I had the smallest one was torn, and it caused everything else to compensate for it. And so what they did is that they just snipped it out. So they did adductor tendinotomy and snipped out the adductor. All the other 4 others made up for it. And I think it's kind of after that surgery, I felt like a different person. I felt so good. And I really, like, I can't go back in time, but if I could have gone back in time, I would have just gotten that surgery first. It was like a 30-minute surgery. They went in, snipped it out, and that was it. I really do think that if I had that initially, I probably would have been fine, but I can't go back in time, and I'm thankful for everything that happened the way it did. But that was really, because I never really had true hip pain. It was like I had clicking and stuff, so I think my labrums were definitely torn. But I really think it was that adductor kind of lower groin or higher groin, lower ab area that was really just messed up. And once they snipped that
TJ,
thing out, it freed everything up.
so just in terms of time frame, you have the meniscus, that's freshman year, and then maybe another 18 months, and then you have the hip. And then when did they do the last surgery? Like,
Yeah,
what
so
was that time frame?
the 3 surgeries all happened in 2022.
Wow.
The first one was in April, and then May, and then I went to do my summer internship, got back to school in the fall. September 23rd, 2022 was my last surgery. And that was
That's a lot, in 6 months or
yeah.
5
And
months,
then,
whatever that is. That's a ton.
and then my favorite part of the story was, and then in that a year later, in April or May, I became an All-American for the first time. So it was really less than a year later, like after I had 3 pretty big surgeries, I became an All-American. And so
That's
that
awesome.
was just a really super inspiring time for me, because I felt like I had gone through hell and just kind of came out better person on the other side.
But not just for you. As we've talked to Jack Fracyon earlier, and you inspired him and your whole team because you were there grinding, you were making it work. And so, yeah, inspiring to yourself, but to others as well. So that's mark of a good teammate, a good leader. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I appreciate
And on
that.
top of it, he's keeping his eye on his career. You're obviously studying and doing these internships, doing your rehab. I mean, your plate was full. So you're a great example of hard work, perseverance, and not giving up. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate
Ty, we are
that.
such wusses. Ty,
Well,
we suck.
So Matt,
Yo.
this is between you and me, but we
Yeah,
do
sure.
talk a lot about people trying to heal themselves through fitness, exercise, nutrition, and clearly TJ was dialed in on all those things.
Yeah.
And the orthopedic surgeons were still needed. The sports hernia surgeon was still needed. So sometimes not everything can be cured with lifestyle. And TJ is the perfect example. And it's great that those surgeons are out there. What happens with the rest of your college career?
Right. That was.
Yeah.
So a year later, you're an All-American.
Yeah. So we, and the story I think is even better, because that year that I had missed, we were 3-11. One of the worst years in Penn State history, for a long, long time. And we kind of got together as a senior class, and because of COVID, that was actually I'm going to the year we went to the Final Four was my 5th year. And so but because it was COVID, we had I think it was 6 or 7 5th years. So we kind of felt like it was our senior class, but also we had guys below us that were also seniors. So we had a very large senior class. But us 5th years, we were the only people that were there for the Final Four our freshman year. And so we had gone freshman year, we came into a program that was a Final Four team. And then we freaking let our program get to a 3-11 team. And so we took a lot of responsibility for that. And we're we've seen the mountaintop, and we've also seen the valley. And how can we get back? We need to leave this place better than how we found it. That's kind of our Penn State lacrosse motto, is leave it better than you found it. And so how can we do that? If we leave right now, we're leaving it in a way worse spot than when we started. And so we got together, and and this is when I was doing my rehab stuff, and nobody knew if I was going to come back. And I didn't even know if I was going to come back myself, because the odds were pretty large, stacked up against me. And we got together as a class. We're all right, we're going to do whatever it takes to get this team back. And we had a fraction of the talent that we had on that 2019 team. And we were able to get back and get to a Final Four that year. And so that was probably my highest peak in like one of my favorite memories in my lacrosse career was just kind of that story of being 3-11, 3 surgeries for me. Then that next year, coming back and getting to a Final Four, and you guys probably know what happened. We lost in the Final Four when one of the Duke players stepped in the crease, and just knowing that like that year was special. We were playing for some much deeper meaning, and that team, you're on different teams, and I sometimes think like some teams you're just close with the guys, some teams you're not, and that was just one of the closest years that I had with like the team, and everybody felt so involved and so into it, and it was really special.
So that takes us into, that was an amazing year. That was an amazing game. That's the reason there's replay now, right?
Yeah.
So then you get drafted and you go right into your PLL season. So you've had a just continuous rehab, but also you've been surrounded by the team. So you have all the support of your teammates. You have coaches that you know well. You're practicing all the time. You go right into the PLL season and have amazing success. How was that different, like playing with people you didn't know as well? And was there any fatigue issues with having those back-to-back seasons that first year?
Yeah, I'll fact check you a little bit, but I actually ended up going back for a 6th year.
Okay.
Last year. So that was
That's
2023. Right. And so I ended up going back for a 6th year, which was not planned because I had my internship. I was going to go start full time. But with everything that happened in the Final Four, and I actually had my extra year of eligibility that I wasn't planning on taking, my coach and teammates convinced me to come back for a 6th year, and I was able to receive some help with NIL, and I was able to end up getting into the MBA program. So it all kind of worked out really well, and I never wanted to go to school for 6 years. I'll be the first to tell you that, but everything ended up happening like really, really well and kind of fell into place, and ended up going back for that last year. I wasn't drafted at that Final Four run year. I was picked up by a team.
The following year, yeah. I fast forwarded it.
Yeah, so
and tell us about the game your 6th year, the big comeback where you had a ton of goals. Wasn't there?
Yeah,
I was gonna say Princeton, but it might be Yale, where you guys were down like 8-0 and won 9-8.
Yeah, I think we were down 9-1 or something, and we ended up winning in overtime, I think. So that was a fun game.
So I had to mention that to prove to Franco that I watched your 6th year. Yeah. I didn't want him to be like, what? He lied. He skipped a season.
Yeah. So, but no, you're exactly right. To answer your question, so after last year, I went straight into the PLL season, and it was awesome. We had went to the Maryland Whipsnakes, so it was a little bit weird putting on Maryland colors and being on a predominantly Maryland team, where I think more than half of the players were all like UMD guys. So that was a little different, but I really learned that they have such a great culture there, and that's the reason that they've won so many national championships, or not that many national championships, but they had been to like 10 straight Final Fours or something. And so I was able to see that kind of on the ground floor. They have a really good culture, and so able to learn from them, and they accepted me right away, which was awesome. And so ended up having a pretty good year last year. Now getting ready for year 2.
So as Ty was saying, you're coming out of a college program where you're living basically with these guys. You're training all the time. You're eating with them. So now you're on your own. You're working full time. Yeah. How does that transition? Like, how do you stay in shape? How do you make sure, nutrition is still a big part of it? It's a little bit harder now that you have to take care of all that on your own, and you're a single guy and you're working a lot. How did that happen, or how did that transition work for you?
That was a really big transition for me, but I had a lot of help. It's pretty well known in the PLL that a lot of rookies will come in, and exactly like you said, you're coming off of, let's say 4, 5, 6 years of college lacrosse where you're playing every day, and now you're on your own. So I had a lot of warning. It's like, don't be that guy to have a really good fresh rookie year and then lay an egg year 2 because you're not doing anything. So because I had that really good warning, I really wanted to make sure that didn't happen to me. And looking back on it, I learned a lot. I would approach if I had to go for next year, hopefully, or if I had to go back in time, I would have done it a lot different. But I kind of had to learn what worked for me. And with my work schedule,
Right.
I get to the office at 9 and don't leave until past midnight. So it's really hard to work out Monday through Friday. So I jam pack my weekends full of training and try to do stuff during the week. But it's hard. So I am actually able to work from home Monday and Friday, which I don't do all the time, but I try to do it as much as I can, because when I work from home, if I have an extra, let's say 10 minutes of free time, I can bang out 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups. And so I have to get very creative in what I'm doing, because I don't have an hour during the week to just go to the gym. It's just not an option. But something that I do take care of is nutrition. I typically don't eat until lunchtime, and then I'll have a big lunch that I'll buy like somewhere close by. They have really good healthy options by me, like Sweet Green, just great like chains, like fast food chains that are healthy. And then for dinner, we have $35 meal stipend, and so I'll spend up and get a really good healthy meal. So that's typically my like training routine, and I think next year it will be different, but that's kind of what I'm working with right now with like the knowledge I had. I was just trying to make the most out of it, and we'll see. I mean, I hope I have done enough to put myself in pretty good position. On the weekends, like I'll do 1-on-1s, 2-on-2s, like kind of like real practices with guys, and I feel like I'm in good shape, and it's really just now getting dialed in and getting ready for the season.
I love how that's an example to even somebody who might say is trying to get in shape or trying to get fit, is that you can do it in between work. Like you don't have to go to the gym for 2 hours every day. You can do 10 minutes of push-ups here, 10 minutes of squats here, 10 minutes of pull-ups here, hop on the bike for a half hour, whatever it is. That's something we can all learn from.
Yeah.
Can you comment on, for people who don't know how professional lacrosse works, is that during the season, it's not your full-time job like the NFL or the NBA. You're working during the season and then you're flying out on the weekend, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we fly out on either a Thursday or a Friday, depending on the game. And yeah, so I have supportive coworkers that allow me to do that. It doesn't always make it easy because I'm still working Monday through Friday, and I work most weekends too. So, but I'm coming up on kind of my first real season with working, because last season I was doing investment banking, but a lot of it was training. So I really wasn't on the desk for too long. I only was on the desk for about a month of the season, and it was pretty difficult. So I'm curious and a little bit nervous for how it's going to go this year. Just like kind of we talked about, you always have to find a way, and so I just have to find a way to communicate better, to make sure I'm on the same page and having the conversations that I need to have. I have our first year analyst group is just super close, and so those are my good friends, and probably going to watch the Penn State game with some of them today, just because like we're just very tight. But sometimes at other levels, they don't always see the same excitement that I have, like, and they don't share the same passion, because I'm there to work. I'm not there to have a life outside of work. So not everybody is on the same page, and it can create some tension. But I feel like I've done my best to communicate and to do my best for the Whipsnakes, and also my best for my employer. So it's been a learning process.
Confident that you'll figure it out. The way you do communicate already and your devotion to things, I'm pretty confident that's going to work out in your favor.
So Matt, a funny story this is a funny story, which TJ will probably be able to relate to. About maybe 9-10 years ago, before the PLL, there was the MLL, and my son's club team had a practice at Navy Stadium, and then they were going to stay over and watch the Bayhawks practice. And so the Bayhawks are flying in on Friday. They have games Saturday, so they have a practice Friday night. And this practice started like at 9:30 at night. Yeah. Dave Cottle was the coach. They're professionals. It was the crispest practice I ever saw. They were done in an hour, and they're doing their like post-workout stretching. And this one kid, adult player on the team, just goes, "Hey coach, I had 3 5-hour energies. What am I supposed to do for the next 14 hours?"
Yeah.
And it was a cool setup. And then they play on Saturday, and then they're flying out on Sunday, and then they're back to their real jobs. So for people like me, TJ, who I understand doctoring and being a teacher and being a coach and being a baker and being a lawyer, what does an investment banker's day look like? And
Oh God.
what do
Sorry,
you, I
TJ.
know, I
This
don't
is
mean to
embarrassing.
bore the audience. This is so I can learn. Are you in front of a computer? Are you doing math all day? Like, are you making calls? What is it? Is it exciting during the day? Like, what is it?
Yeah. So for investment banking, for people that don't know, it's strategic advisory of companies. And so at a very high level, we help companies make strategic moves, whether that's capital raises, whether that's selling a company, maybe it's going public. So at a very high level, that is what we do. As an analyst, I'm part of the execution team. At a higher level, let's say at a managing director level, you're in charge of origination. You're bringing in deals. You're talking to people all the time. But at my level, I'm in front of a computer screen from 9 a.m. to whenever I'm done. And I don't really often speak with clients. It's just executing. And so for me, it's a little bit hard because I love talking to people. That is what energizes me and gets me going. And so that's hard for me to sit at a desk all day. So it's something I'm learning that, hey, sometimes when you're at your job, I'm learning what I do like and what I don't like. So that's something that's been really hard for me. But it's like hitting the wall with your offhand. You got to sometimes learn to increase other skill sets. So I'm thankful for the time, but I also know that I have other strengths that maybe don't align with that.
And are you aware of TechNet since you're at a computer all day? This is my public service announcement, is that sometimes, you're at a computer all day, you go to lacrosse, you don't warm up correctly, you turn your neck real quick and your neck's out and you're like, oh, I hurt my neck playing lacrosse. In reality, it's because you were at the computer all day. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, no, I look around and some people have like really bad neck pain and stuff, and I'm thankful for my youth because I don't have that. But I stand a lot.
Just make sure you're doing the house calls stretches.
Maybe you have to send those to me.
Make sure you're doing the house calls stretches.
Yeah,
I will.
yeah.
And Matt,
So,
you're our business manager. Are we
Yep.
big enough that do we need an investment banker, or we still need to grow this podcast?
Well, I think it's never too early to get started. I mean, we've already we've got a lot of feelers out there right now, a lot of guys calling, but we got TJ's info, and we'll see if we need them. But right now
we can run a process.
Okay.
We can get going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, if you could teach Ty how to use his earphones, that's really where we need to start before Joe Rogan or Smartless comes after us. TJ, we've kept you way too long, but we always like to ask some interesting questions just to, kind of get to know you better, even though we've already talked to you for 45 minutes. TJ, you play some golf?
I play a little bit of golf, not much.
Yep. All right. So living or dead, past, present, doesn't matter. Who's your dream foursome?
Yeah, I saw this question that when you sent it over, and I can give a couple answers.
Questions. Yeah,
I would say that right now, probably like the most people would have the most fun with would be my first year analyst class at my job, because like I talked about, we spend all day together for Monday through Friday in the office from the moment we get there till the moment we leave, and so we're spending we're spending like 15 hours a day together, and I learned this thing called the 100-hour rule, where like you need to really spend 100 hours with someone to really get to know them, and we basically almost do that in a week. We've spent hours and hours. So I think if I were to force some right now, I would choose those guys. I think the thing that keeps me at the job and really enjoying it is just those guys that I can have fun with, and we can like make fun of each other all day. It makes the hours fly by.
Awesome.
It's my turn finally. So TJ, you already mentioned the book Range, and I recommend that for anybody who's into sports. There's so much fascinating stuff in there, but do you have like a motivational movie that is your go-to?
Yeah, I would say I have a motivational book, and it's called Endurance by Ernest Shackleton. And it's so one of my best friends, he's like a brother to me, is Jack Posey, who gave me that book when I was undergoing my hip surgeries. And I read the book when I was like, had just had my hip surgeries because I was, like I said, biking all day, not doing anything else. So I read the book and it was extremely motivating for me. And the story is that he was trying to be one of the first people to cross the Antarctica. And he went down with a group of like 29 people. They took off and their ship got stuck in the Arctic ice before they even got to Antarctica. So they're stuck and their ship basically, and the weather starts to get colder. So the ice just keeps growing. And so the ship just collapses because the ice is just like absolutely destroying. Everything's just ice. And so their ship is just stranded and they have lifeboats. And if these are like some of the most dangerous waters in the world, and they end up, he's the leader and he ends up getting all 29 people back alive in basically an impossible mission. And this was like, I want to say early 1900s. And so they basically had no communication. I don't think they did have any communication to get where they came from. And he basically got everybody back safely with no deaths on an impossible mission. And so it's an incredible story, super inspiring. And the reason it was so inspiring for me was when I read it, I was just going through my hip surgeries and I was like, all right, if this guy can do that, I can come back from 2 hip surgeries. It's easy. So it really just provided a lot of perspective when I needed it.
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
Can I do a second question, Matt?
Hold on, let me check. Yes.
I love your energy and your passion. I love how you love lacrosse. You love the job you have now. You're definitely a go person. Do you have any leisure activities which are totally just chill, relax, like your go-to when it's like, okay, it's time to relax?
Yeah, I'm working on that. But I would say
you're talking to two guys who struggled to learn how to do that. So don't be shy.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely love hanging out with friends and family. So I think that's part of my leisurely activities. I love listening to podcasts. I'm so thankful to be on this podcast. I really want to get into podcasting because my two favorite things.
I'm looking for a partner. I'm looking. There could be an opening.
My two favorite things are learning and teaching. I really think that podcasting is like the perfect place to do both of those things. And so I don't know. I think I have that in the future. So that's kind of a hobby that I would like to get into.
TJ, you've got the energy and the passion and you can communicate really well. I don't see that being an issue for you at all. And we're happy to help you in any way we can. We can put you underneath the House Calls media umbrella and we'll take care of you from there.
So TJ, do you have a friend? So like everything's going great. Your career's going great. Your lacrosse playing is going great. Do you have a friend out there? Maybe you've known him since you were 14 and no matter how well you do, he's always there to make fun of you and keep you humble.
Oh yeah. I mean, those are what my Penn State teammates are for. Is that what you guys got going on right now?
That's what we have going on.
I think so.
Yeah. And it's funny, we interviewed a doctor a month or two ago named Steve Brown, and he described it perfectly. He was like, I still have all my friends from when I was young, and they're not impressed that I'm a doctor. So I can imagine like down the road, you're going to have this group of people. They're not going to be impressed that you're an investment banker. They're not going to be impressed that you played in the PLL because you're just TJ to them.
100%. Yeah, I have some really, I'm thankful for, I got some really good friends that keep me humble and do not care whether I score 4 goals or 0 goals on the weekend. So it's
perfect.
It really is really helpful.
Awesome.
Well, you probably pass to them, unlike Ty, who's got 0 assists in every sport he's ever played. But
I noticed when TJ said he liked basketball because he was driving and dumping, and I was like, oh, this is an opening for Matt. This is where I get railed on because I don't like passing.
I just about to, I was like, we all know. Yeah, we all know. TJ, thanks so much for your time. Busy guy, a lot going on. So thanks for carving out some time for us. It was really great to get to know you and look forward to watching you this season and look forward to rooting for Penn State this evening. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. I love I follow your newsletter, and I really enjoy the content you put out. And obviously, I listen to the Jack Frack podcast that he did so well on. So definitely thankful that you guys asked me.
Awesome. That was fun. We'll keep in touch.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys, and go Penn State.
Buddy.
See ya. Yep.
You got it.
All right.
Thanks, TJ.
So that was TJ Malone, no relation to Moses, Sam, or Carl, but great guy. A lot of energy. I can see why you'd be everyone's favorite teammate. And I look forward to seeing what he can do this year and beyond. Good guy.
I really loved listening to his passion for lacrosse and especially his early years and how he used the other sports. I love how he's now doing this, trying to get in shape or trying to stay in shape, trying to stay competitive while he's got his real career going, which is super busy. And from a medical perspective, I think we as doctors sometimes look back at our years, the age he is now, when we were in our training, and we have a tendency to think that we're like the only ones to work hard, and we kind of whine and complain a little bit. And you're like, no, people who are getting after it in their 20s and 30s, they're working their butts off. There's a lot of people out there working hard. And I just loved him as an example of that.
Yeah, no, he's exactly. I mean, everything he does, he goes all out. And that's very obvious with his energy and his desire to always strive to be the best. So very impressive young man.
And very thankful that Franco and Jack connected us up with him. That was awesome.
That was great.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to you.
See you. Have a good weekend.
You too.